A lot of people will tell you that astral projection is this phenomenon where you simply leave your body to take a tour of the world. While I think it would be cool to be able to leave my body and fly around the world and maybe go into secret military bases and spy on different things that are happening in the world, that's not really astral projection. So the reason why I'm making this video is to tell you what astral projection actually is, what it feels like, how it works, at least based on my own experiences. I'm not claiming that I have all of the answers. I'm not claiming that I'm an expert on the topic. I'm just a spiritual seeker myself who has happened to stumble upon some pretty interesting and extraordinary experiences that I want to share with you. Astral projection is a phenomenon where you are really sort of changing the data stream of your consciousness. And this is really the way that I perceive it, because when you astral project, you are not here in this reality anymore. And suddenly you find yourself sort of disembodied in a different realm, in a different space, where there's a lot happening. There's a lot of colors, there's a lot of patterns, there's a lot of sensations. There's a lot of movement as well. You don't really know what's happening necessarily, but you understand that there is some form of movement. You might see different faces or spirits or patterns or fractals. I would say it's a deeper form of intelligence that speaks through you, or that automatically sort of moves the experience and navigates it. Because you're not thinking when you're in the astral, oh, I'm going to go this way, I'm going to speak to this spirit, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, oh, I'm hungry, what am I going to have for lunch today? How long have I been out here? Can I go back to my body? You don't think about it like that. You're not really thinking at all. There's just a deeply present but intelligent nature of your experience. That it's not about the mind, it's not about this infrastructure navigating the experience or trying to make sense of it, because you can't really make sense of it when you're out there. You just experience it for what it is and trust that a part of you already knows what is happening, because these realms also sort of feel familiar. It doesn't feel like it's the first time you've been there. It doesn't just throw you completely off guard and you're like, well, what is this? Where am I? Everything's so strange. At least in my experiences, it feels like it's, oh, I've been here before, this sort of feels normal, this feels natural. I can't quite put my finger on why it feels so familiar, but it does. So the first time that I astral projected was when I was living in Vietnam. I think this was in 2020. And I made a couple of videos on this topic already, so I'll link that here. Pretty much what happened is I astral projected through using plant medicine, so through using cannabis. And in the past, I used to smoke quite a lot. Believe me, I'm very familiar with how cannabis feels, and even going into a bad trip or having a very deep experience with it, I'm sort of aware of how that feels and what it can do. And even when we go into these states of ego dissolution or ego death, which can be also profound, this experience was completely different. And the reason why it was different is because there was this very sharp onset of what happened. So I was lying down and I started perceiving these sort of shadow beings or entities around me and feeling this deep sense of discomfort. And long story short, I'm not going to go into all the details here, but essentially what happened is I started feeling these really intense vibrations through my body, just going through me and like my whole body vibrating. And at that same time, my vision started expanding outwards. If you imagine that your vision when your eyes are closed is like watching a blank TV screen, a black TV screen, it's like that started to spread outwards to perceive depth. There was this just intense feeling on my body as well. I noticed my heart rate was going pretty fast at this point, and it's just like this entire cocktail of all these weird sensations and things that just punch you straight in the face. It's not like they gradually come on as they might during a plant medicine experience, because often when we go into a deep experience with plant medicines, it's sort of like it gradually takes you there and you learn to surrender more and more to it, and then you can go into some pretty beautiful and amazing places, and scary places as well, depending on who you are and your experience with these sort of things. But this sort of just happened all at once, and I remember not feeling anything like this before. It was a unique, interesting experience where I'm going through all these physical sensations, and suddenly I just pop out. It's like I pop out through this membrane, and I'm in this new space. I'm not really embodied. I don't have a body, at least I don't think I do, but I don't know what's happening at the same time. I just see a lot of patterns and a lot of fractals and a lot of different things happening, and there's all these spirits coming in that I seem to be interacting with. But once I realized that I was actually accessing something real, I started to practice just via meditation. So not using cannabis, not using any plant medicines or anything like that. And on the rare occasion, I would get to the same state where I would feel these effects, where I would enter what I call the gateway. So sometimes when I'm in this very deep state of meditation, where it feels like I'm almost in a bubble, I'm not thinking, I'm just in this very deep, relaxed state, which can be sort of difficult to access. I don't access it all the time, but sometimes I do. Then on the rare occasion when I'm in that state of consciousness and I'm surrendered to it and I'm just allowing it to be, the same set of symptoms will happen. So suddenly I'll just feel these vibrations. That's like the hallmark of astral projection. But at the same time, my vision is expanding outwards. Everything's starting to brighten. Sometimes I hear these sounds, like these high-pitched sounds going, ee. It's not subtle at all. It doesn't feel like, oh, could this be happening? Could it not be happening? It's like, yeah, 100%, this is fucking happening. These sensations can very easily trigger your mind. And once you have any thought, such as, oh, this is cool, or oh, this is scary, or this is exciting, or oh, I wonder what's happening, it's happening again. Whatever it is, that'll activate your brain and that will ground you back into reality. It's this gateway where you are starting to leave your body because you need to be completely equanimous. You need to be completely centered and not think during this experience, which can be difficult because naturally you want to think. Naturally, when something starts happening or you start having some intense spiritual experience, your mind reactivates and you think about it, or you analyze it, or you say, ooh, what's happening, or it's happening again. But to actually astral project successfully, you can't activate your mind, and that takes training. It takes practice to be deeply centered within your meditation, deeply centered within yourself, so that when it does happen, if it happens, you don't snap yourself out of it. And then you're not really in your mind anymore. You're not really in any construct of reality that you recognize as a human being. You're more just in this energetic space or this energetic nature where a lot of different things are happening and you're sort of just there experiencing it. You're not thinking about what you're experiencing or how you're experiencing it or how you're navigating this experience. So I think there are at least 3 levels of consciousness, probably many, many more, but I don't know exactly because every tradition and every religion and every spiritual belief system has a different interpretation of how many dimensions there are, how many levels of reality there are. But I perceive it as, okay, the outer shell is sort of like the material reality, where we do have space, time, physics, matter, and all of these things that are holding this experience together. And I think this is probably quite far away from universal truth, or let's say ultimate reality, like the ultimate truth of what we actually are, what we are actually experiencing. This is sort of like on the peripheries that we're experiencing here. Then if you step in one more layer, so let's say beyond the physical reality, what is there? So what happens when we die? Where does the soul come from? What is this realm of experience? And I believe that this is what we call the astral planes. So the astral planes, like this physical reality, also has duality. It also has separation. So there is a such thing as you and me. There is a difference between, here and there, positive and negative, good and bad. There can be different dynamics because duality also exists within the astral planes. And that is why I believe that the astral planes aren't the ultimate level of reality, because there is a sense of duality, there is a sense of separation. Everything is energetic and it can change and it can morph and it can, like spirits might have their preferred form, they might look a certain way because I guess they just want to, but they're not really confined to that form because in these realms nothing actually has a form, everything's just energy. And energy manifests in different ways, whether that's in movement or whether that's in how it looks or whether that's in patterns or colors or sensations or whatever it is. There's no sort of baseline stability within this realm. And the next realm that I'm familiar with is what we could call ultimate reality. This is the realm where there is no separation. There is no me, there is no you. There is no here, there is no there. It is in a way that we can't even comprehend it. It's just all is one. So that's what people often say. You might hear all the hippies say, everything is one. Everything, we are all God and blah, 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 blah. Which is super cliche nowadays, but I also sort of believe it because I believe that is the deepest, most fundamental level of reality. And whether you call it Brahman, whether you call it paradise, whether you call it heaven, it doesn't really matter on your interpretation of it. But I think every religion and every belief system does have this same concept that there is some state of consciousness. The deepest level of consciousness is non-duality. It's where everything just exists. There is no separation. And this is the true, I guess, form of reality, ultimate reality. But there's a lot of different layers to reality because all of these levels are right here, right now. This is why people can become enlightened just through meditation. This is why essentially every spiritual tradition or spiritual path in the world says that the pathway to God is inside. You don't find God by accumulating more stuff. You don't find God by getting a nicer house or a nicer car or by going on vacation for a year. While these things might be nice and they might give you some sense of happiness within this reality, that's not the path to God. Because that's really just taking you away from your innate nature, from these deeper levels of consciousness that we can access. Because everything is right here, right now. And within these lower or higher dimensions, however you perceive it, let's say inner dimensions, this is where the laws of physics starts to break down. So if you are in a very, very deep state of meditation, you'll start to realize that time doesn't really exist when you're in these states, because time is a construct of this dimension. And when you do go deep enough into your own consciousness, the rules of this reality start to break down because you're actually tapping into a different reality. You're going into another place which is deeper and more significant and let's say more real than this physical reality that we're experiencing here. So the path to God, the path to astral projection, the path to all of these crazy things that we can experience isn't by looking for them. It's not by going outwards. It's just learning how to actually tune into our own consciousness and tune into these deeper levels of our own consciousness where we can start to experience, the astral realms and different dimensions of existence. Some people use plant medicines to access it. I think that's a valid approach as well. But you don't need plant medicines. You just need to be able to meditate and to go inwards to your own consciousness to see what's really in there. And yeah, this can take a lifetime of practice. It can take lifetimes of practice. It can take a lot of discipline and a lot of initiations and a lot of, all of that spiritual stuff that people do that you might not fully understand. But ultimately, the whole reason is to go inwards. Another thing that I want to mention in this video is that the astral realms are teeming with life. So as we were talking about duality and separation, and that there is duality in the astral realms as well, there are also spirits, there are intelligences, and there are energies. There are a lot of things that we can interact with. The thing about spirits is they're sort of like people. So in a lot of like spiritual traditions and things, people tend to say, it's either a good entity or a bad entity. But that's not a mature view of how that works, because spirits are intelligent, they're souls, they're intelligences themselves like us. And it's sort of like saying, this person is either good or bad, there's no nuance to it. But spirits work the same way. So spirits can be anything. Yeah, there can be good spirits, there can be bad spirits, there can be malevolent spirits, there can be benevolent spirits. But there can also just be spirits who don't give a fuck. There can be spirits who are mischievous, who just want to fuck with you because they can, because they have their own personalities, because they have their own identities. Then you also have dark spirits. So one time that I astral projected, I was just laying on my bed, and I made a video about this as well, which I'll link here. But essentially I was laying on my bed on my phone, getting ready to go to sleep, and then suddenly I just started going through this gateway again, and I had all these vibrations and my vision started going out, but this time it happened more intense and quicker than I've ever experienced it before. And the interesting thing is that I didn't even try it. I wasn't thinking about astral projecting. I was just on my phone like chilling. Then suddenly this happens, and at that time it had been like maybe a year or so since the last time I astral projected. I couldn't really remember what was happening. I just knew that, ooh, this is happening again, some sort of spiritual phenomenon, which is sort of cool. Like, okay, I'm gonna just like surrender into it because something's happening, but I couldn't put a picture to it. I didn't think, oh, I'm astral projecting. I just thought, oh, this feels familiar. I've been here before. Something's happening. And suddenly I was disembodied, but I was still in my room. So this time I wasn't completely in another dimension. I was still like, I guess it was more like an out-of-body experience, I don't know, but I was still within my room, sort of like floating above my bed. And I was also seeing, the fractals and the colours and stuff, so sort of like, I guess, between realms or something like that. But then I just started to notice this really deep, dark presence in the space that just made me feel really uncomfortable. And, as I started to like pay attention to it, and my little antennas like, okay, what is that? There's something in here. Then it got darker and denser, and it started to turn into this feeling of dread. I'm like, oh, I'm not safe. I'm in a like really bad position. I need to get out of here. And that's sort of like the feeling that was washed over me. And as it sort of came closer, or like I was more within its orbit, it started physically speaking to me. I heard the words in my ear, in my right ear, as I was floating there. And it was some dialect, some strange language. I couldn't understand it. Like the words were clear, but I couldn't understand the language. But it had this like very deep voice, and it was speaking. It was sort of like whispering to me. And that's when I was sort of like freaking out a bit. I'm like, fuck, I need to get out of this. But I'm in the middle of astral projecting, or I'm in the middle of this experience. I don't know how I can just stop this. How can I actually get out of it? Then that's when I woke up. I came out of bed and I was sweating, and I had this loud ringing, like super loud. I don't think I've ever had ringing in my ears that loud, but it was that loud, like it was deafening. I couldn't hear anything, and that lasted for probably like at least 10 minutes, just the same way that there's some nasty shit in this world, there's some nasty shit in the astral realms as well. You start to come across something that feels a little bit weird, or it feels a little bit dark, and maybe it's telling you, don't engage with it, maybe go the other way, and your intuition should tell you exactly what to do. Because your intuition will say, this feels a bit weird. There's some really amazing, incredible things in the astral realms as well that, you can engage with, or that you want to engage with. But just having that discernment and realizing that it's not all good, and, it's nuanced. These higher dimensions of experience are also nuanced, the same way humanity is nuanced, the same way our own reality is nuanced. You can't just put a label on it and judge everything as one thing. Everything is bad, everything is good, everything is blah, 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 blah. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please like this video, subscribe to help the algorithms out. And if you enjoy this sort of content where I talk about the deep end of spirituality and all of this crazy stuff, then please, follow my content and stay up to date, because I will be releasing videos pretty regularly. So thank you very much, take care of yourself, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next video.